and welcome. It's today my pleasure to introduce you to Gita Gopal, the founder of a futureforeverychild.org. Gita, after having had a very long and successful career in the tech industry, moved into the nonprofit sector to support children, especially orphans who live in India. She is a long-time resident of the Bay Area and very invested in the community. She and her husband, Madan, have three children, two biological sons and an adopted daughter, and they have enjoyed the wild and often tumultuous journey of their child growing up. Geeta is passionate about the welfare of orphaned and adopted children. Welcome, Geeta, to Lokvani. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you for having me.
What a pleasure it is, and really kudos to you for what the work you are doing. So tell us a little bit about A Future for Every Child.
Yes, thank you. So most people know about orphan children and the need for providing good institutional care in the absence of familial care if the children don't have families. But people don't think about or are not even aware of what happens to these children at the age of 18 when support stops. Now, this is the case all over the world, but in particular in India, there are very large numbers, and these children leave orphanages or childcare institutions at the age of 18 with poor education, no money to educate themselves further, no family support, and then they're just expected to fend for themselves. So this is a population we are focused on, and what we want to do is help them prepare for economic self-sufficiency, prepare for adulthood. And we do that by putting them through our Launchpad for Adulthood program. And we focus on this age group because it's just a really critical time. You know how much we put into launching our children. And so if these children get a little bit of help, they can not only change the trajectory of their lives, but they can also change their future families and transform generations. So it's just a really critical time to put a little bit of intervention that completely changes their life.
Fantastic. So you're saying that they spend until 18 at the orphanage, and you help them bridge that gap into living independently outside of the orphanage so that they become successful and there is a generational impact on their families. That's really, really laudable. So what is really the spread and the depth of the problem that you're trying to address?
Yes. Well, of course, in India, the numbers are always very large. So there's several 100,000 children living in orphanages, in about 10,000 orphanages all over India. They're actually called childcare institutions because not all the children living in them are true orphans. They might have families, but they have been abandoned or they've run away from home to escape abusive situations. So these several 100,000 children grow up, they're housed, they're fed, they're educated somewhat. But at 18, they have to leave because this is what the Juvenile Justice Act says. They support them till 18. And there's 60,000 young adults who age out every year. So this problem is just huge. It's all over India. And it's actually nobody has really addressed the problem in scale. The only youth who get support are those who age out of a few very good orphanages who support their own children, until they're settled. But 80% of the childcare institutions offer no support to the children. So that's where we come in, and we've created a program where we take these teenagers, they're just young, very young, they're basically still children, take these teenagers into our program. We first provide them career counseling, and then based on whatever level of education they have, what their aptitude is, their need for immediate earning or whatever their familial situation is, they choose a career. They choose a path, whether it's vocational training or college or whatever makes sense for them. We fund them throughout this journey, throughout their educational training. We mentor them, help them get a job, and then very critically mentor them for 2 years after to make sure that they are stable and that they're set And hopefully they now have the skills to make a success of their lives.
Wow. And I know that you have been doing this for, I think, a couple of years. So how many children have you helped or young adults have you helped so far?
Yeah. So we started our program in 2019. So it's only been 2.5 years. And we do our work working with 3 NGO partners in India. They're across 7 states. And so far, up to now, we have 312 youth in our program. About 60 have finished their courses, about 48 have jobs. It got a little delayed because of COVID. I mean, COVID had a huge impact on these young adults. But still, there are about 48 that have jobs earning between 10 and 18,000 rupees a month, which is a great steady income for them as their first job. And we hope to add another 150 this year.
Fantastic. And actually, the cost is really, really low to do this, right? It's can you tell me a little bit about that? What investment does a donor need to make to ensure generational impact on a young woman or a gentleman?
Absolutely. It's just mind-boggling how little money is required to completely change the trajectory of a person's life. So we did a deep dive into the costs, and there are several components of the cost. You know, one component is a direct cost, which is tuition, food, and lodging. And that depends on the length of the course that the teenager chooses. Another very important component of the cost is the staff in the program. The staff do a lot of things. You know, they provide the counseling, they help them find housing, they help them get all the ID cards and Aadhaar card and PAN card and all the things they need to get. They mentor them, they listen to them, essentially providing the support that a family provides. So that's a very huge part of the program. And then we also do a lot of data collection to make sure that we're doing this efficiently, we're doing this effectively. What are the best programs that are good for our children? How do we increase their earning potential? So we collect a lot of data. So with all of these kinds of costs, we did a deep dive and found it costs $800 on average. Wow. To change a person's life. Now, it depends on what course they choose, of course, but on average, it's $800, less than the cost of an iPhone, which we change every year, you know, without thinking about it. So it's just, you know, we believe every youth deserves a chance, and we believe that this little bit of investment can completely change their lives. So for donors who are thinking about what you can do to really make an impact, it's $800. And then if you think about your own journey to independence, you know, what your parents did for you, what your family did for you, the support structure you had around you, or you think about parents who are of young adults, you think about what you put into your children, you know, how much it costs to put them through college, or even, I mean, in school, college, whatever, how long we continue to support them, then you contrast it to the $800 that's required. So, you know, I think all of us want to have an impact, and this is a great way to pay it forward.
Surely, surely. I can't believe that just $800 can make or that big a difference, you know, in a young person's life. So tell us, I know you've had many success stories. So could you share one with us?
Yes, several, but let me tell you about Pinky. She's this very shy girl, an orphan who grew up in Mumbai. And at the beginning of COVID, there was such a need for healthcare. She actually took a health aid 3-month course. And because of the COVID situation, she started earning 18,000 rupees a month as a health aid. Wow. And it's not just the first 3 months of her studying and the job has, of course, helped her, but also the tremendous confidence that she has, that she's gained from doing this, and the knowledge that if she studies more, she can better herself. So going forward, she'll be able to do that. So that's one example. There's another example, Vikas, a young man was orphaned at the time when he was in 10th grade. And he has 3 younger sisters, and he was very worried about how he was going to take care of them.
मेरा नाम विकास प्रकाश गायकवाड. कुटुंबामध्ये आमच्या 3 बहिणी आणि मी एक आई वडील होते. तर मग वडिलाचा आधार केला. त्यांना 7वीला असताना मग आईवर लय जे आर्थिक ताण येत होतात, तर 4 जणांना जगवायचं कसं, म्हणजे हा प्रश्न आलता पुढं. म्हणजे 10वीचा निकाल लागला आणि आईचं इकडं मृत्यू झाला. 3 बहिणीची जबाबदारी होती की 3 बहिणी राहतील कुठं, म्हणजे काय करतील. याचं पण असं वाटायचं की आता आपलं काय कसं 10वी नंतर आलो ना 11वी 12वी तर म्हणजे असं ओळखीचं कोणीच नव्हतं. आता 15 वर्षानंतर झाल्यानं प्रत्येकाला काही ना काही वाटतं ना, की पुढं कसं होईल आपलं, काय होईल, स्वतः पुढं चालून काहीतरी बनवू शकू, काहीतरी करू. मी इकडेच येणार होतो पुण्यात, मला ITच करायचं होतं, आवड आहे त्या क्षेत्राची. मग आपल्याला ते मन लावून शिकायचं होतं, म्हणजे मोटर मेकॅनिकल आवडतं, गाड्या वगैरे नीट कराय. आपिक या संस्थेने मला खूप मदत केली. त्यांच्यामुळे आता मी माझे म्हणजे स्वप्न म्हणजे आता पुढं साकार करतोय.
So there are all these just really heartwarming stories. There's a girl, Manisha, who ran away from home because her father wanted to get her married early and she didn't want to do that. So she took her younger sister and ran away to the police, put her into a childcare institution. She graduated, took a design course as she's now working. And her motto is be courageous and take charge of your own destiny. I mean, that's the advice she gives other young people in her situation. And I think that's just so profound, be courageous and take charge of your own destiny. But if we can help in a little bit to help them do that, that's just so immensely satisfying.
So I need to ask you, how did this PhD in computer science working in HP research end up making this her full-time, thing to do?
Yeah, I have to tell you, we work harder now than I ever did when I was in high tech.
And I know
Yeah,
that.
so our journey, we have 2 biological sons who are now 32 and 30, and we wanted a daughter, so we adopted a daughter in 1997. She's now 25. And I mean, just our family, she says she's the cherry on top of the sundae. So that's what she says. She's completed our family. But when we adopted her, we saw a lot of other children in the orphanage. And it's always stuck with me as to, I hope they have been adopted, what their lives are like. And so when my husband retired, we wanted to do something in this space. And when we started researching, we were shocked to find that 95% of the children never get adopted. They grow up in childcare institutions and then they age out at 18. And so we were looking at, what can we do to make an impact? And just about at that time, we were launching our 3 children. The amount of our children are really diverse, and the amount of effort we put into helping them become independent, we felt this was the right age group to focus on. And we felt that we could actually create a program where we can measure the outcomes. So not just that we put work into it, but we can see that if we believe that if a young adult is working steadily for 2 years, they know what it's like to be independent, to take care of themselves, then they can, live a successful life. And so we can measure outcomes. We can see how many of the youth we have supported are actually working after 2 years, what their salaries are like, what their dreams and aspirations are like. So this seemed like a really good place to focus. And it's been a lot of work over the last 3 years, but it's been very satisfying.
Surely a labor of love, I can see that. And
absolutely, a passion project for us, yes.
And of course, the point that I think you brought up when we had our initial conversation was that, this kind of transitional help is required not just for those that are in orphanages, but for every individual who is growing up. And especially in America, when there are children who may not be having mainstream interests, like wanting to become a doctor or an engineer, that most Indian parents understand, they really need to do things that can support their passion. I know that you are now working on an organization in the US as well, to be able to provide such things to people. The parents are well off, but they just don't know how to give the right transition. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, yes, we have a program called Free Flight, which is an initiative of the same organization, A Future for Every Child. But this is a program we are prototyping right now in the Bay Area, and we hope to then spread it a lot more. Bay Area in particular is such a pressure cooker for children, middle and high schoolers particularly, because they somehow absorb the mindset, no matter what their parents tell them, they absorb the mindset that the only way to be successful is to go do all these AP courses, go into some, highly ranked college, and then get a job either as a doctor or an engineer or as a hedge fund manager or something. So that's this notion of success that they have imbibed. And sometimes parents also think that. But there's a much broader notion of success. And I think we all need to discover what that is, explore what that is. And my kids, my oldest son wanted to be a jazz musician, and he's still a musician. He composes for Pokemon. My daughter, who had a lot of learning challenges, so there's no way she could have done the AP courses and stuff, but she has a lot of other talents. So we felt that vulnerable children, whether they're in India growing up in orphanages or middle and high schoolers in the US who are sort of round pegs trying to fit in, or square pegs trying to fit into a round hole, how can we support them? And so Free Flight is a program, is a parent teen club. And it's very important as both parents and teens, because I think both have to grow. Parents have to grow just as much as teenagers. And the goal of Free Flight is to expose youth to all the skills needed, life skills, soft skills such as self-advocacy and critical thinking and resiliency, life skills such as financial literacy and safety awareness. These are things that are not really taught in schools, but are critical skills for life. So we call this Launchpad for Life. It's preparing the youth for life. And we also exposed these teenagers to careers that are off the beaten track. So, they know all about computer programmers and doctors, but they don't know about musicians or legal aides or horse trainers. There's just such a wide variety of careers that are possible, just to open parents and kids' minds on what is possible. So that's what Free Flight is. And this is the first year, and we have started with a group of 20 families, and very diverse kids ages from 7th grade to 12th grade. And we hope to have a great year exploring as a group. This is not about telling either kids or parents the right way. This is about all of us exploring together what our definition of success is, what our personal goals are. So that's what Free Flight is about.
Wow, fantastic, Geeta. So it sounds like once you prototype that program in the Bay Area, it's probably something that should be replicated. And I'm sure there'll be people in the East Coast who would like to maybe replicate it here, because whether the kids go into mainstream professions or not, I think the life skills are very important. I think the idea of really, how do you do accounting? What does money mean? I think from that on to other things, I think it's just something that there is no place for us to really learn about. So I think that's a fantastic thing that you're doing. So what is your message to parents and children, especially of young children, middle and high schooler? Any special thoughts now that you've worked on this so deeply? What advice would you give them?
So I would say what I learned as a parent is that our kids' path is their own. It's not our ideas of their path or our biases or whatever we think. And what we need to do is learn to guide and support them in that path, and form a community that helps us to do that helps the kids and helps the parents as well. So that's
your point. What does success mean, right? Like it's not a one-point system to find out the success, but it really...
Exactly. I mean, my 3 children are doing 3 very different things, and I think of all of them as successful. The one is earning in the 6 figures, and the other is making, still close to minimum wage, but I still think of them as very successful at life. Because what do we want? We want good people who will impact society themselves and learn to be happy. So, I think as parents, we really need to broaden our definition of success.
Surely, surely. I'm a dance teacher, and I know that when you are in dance or music, those arts, you can make tremendous life-changing impact while maybe not making six figures. I mean, nowadays, I think there are paths to have a very sustainable life as well. But I think that's another thing that parents need to understand. Just because non-traditional career doesn't mean you cannot have a sustainable life, right? I think
Absolutely. I mean, a big goal of Free Flight also is to understand financial independence, financial sustainability. So yes, you follow your passion, but you also understand the realities of, living. And so it's how do you find the path forward that blends both? Yes.
that is really fantastic. So, such an honor to meet somebody who has spent, first of all, had some multiple successes. I think both in your career, at HP and all of that, and then to move on into making a new career in the world of making impact in the social impact space. My tip of the hat to you, and more power to you. And we shall certainly share this. And is it okay if people contact you? I assume if they go to your
Absolutely. So there's a lot of information on the website. The URL is below. You can send a message to info@afutureforeverychild.com or Gita, Gita, at afutureforeverychild.org. I'm most happy to talk to people. The great thing about this journey has been all the interesting people I've met and how much I have learned and how much my husband has learned in doing this. So that's been so much fun.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations for all your accomplishments. Congratulations for taking a problem and finding a path to solve it. I mean, that's not always easy. It's one thing to be looking at a problem and feel sorry about it, but to do something and making an impact, I think, is really God's own gift. And I thank the world that you are here, Geeta. So thank you so much for taking the time. Namaste.
Namaste.